Hey guys, it's Ted Bogert. Welcome back to the Ted Show. I've got one of the most energetic, enthusiastic, certainly entrepreneurial people I know. He's a top 35 under 35. We're going to find out what that means. It's the one and only Bryan Burns is with us. What's up, Bryan? How you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing well. It's good to be on the show. I've seen quite a few episodes. What are you at now? Like almost 1,400 episodes
Almost
now.
1,400. Good. You do research. I love it.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Well, I'm sorry you've had to go through as many shows as you probably had to look at, but I appreciate it. I always love having great guests on. And I love this top 35 under 35, which is real estate related, which we'll talk about in a minute, because I think it's so important for people to see, hey, what's somebody who's around my age, not my age, your age, how are they actually doing it? How are they reaching these goals, and how are they doing the business, as much business as they are? So we'll talk about that. But before we do, I told you before we went live that the audience loves some origin story. They want to know your background, and you've got a great one. So share a little bit of point A to point B with the audience, Bryan.
So I was prior to real estate. I was a firefighter paramedic. So it's a very intense job. And then, just like a lot of people, they started, they start off doing it part time. So I thought, what an opportunity, because generally speaking, at the fire department, you work for 24 hours and then you have 48 hours off.
Right.
You got to think, though, you're actually working 24 hours for that day. So you get calls at midnight, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. You could be up all day for a full 24 hours. So you don't get the necessary, it sounds great on paper, but really you're spending that first day kind of, unwinding, and then you really only have one day. So I did juggle both of those for a while, and it got to a point where, where I was looking at it, and in my particular department, you would get what's called mandatory, where you wouldn't leave. They would say you have to stay for another 24 hours.
Wow.
And it was to the point where that was happening so frequently. And I would look at, my business and building my business. Well, if you know what days you're going to be off, it's easy to plan. But if I could randomly get a phone call that says, nope, you're here for another 24, I was looking and kind of weighing out, how much money am I losing by being here, and I wanted to know that, this isn't just I'm busy for 3 months and then it's going to die down. I need to know that the business is going to be consistent, because fire department, I left a pension, I left a guaranteed salary, amazing healthcare, all of that, to strike out and start real estate full time.
You took a
Yep.
risk. Give me the two origin stories though on that. Like what got you into the fire department, and then as you're in the fire department, why was it real estate that was attracted to you? So like two different, because I think it's cool to see why people made the choices in their careers that they did.
Yeah. So the reason I started the fire department, that has been something that I've always wanted to do. And it was very difficult to get, it's kind of weird, because when the economy is bad, it's actually hard, it's harder to get a government job because it's stable and whatever. But when the economy is really good, people start leaving and branching out. So when I started, it was 2008, 2009. So you would show up and there'd be like 1,800 applicants for 10 spots open, so it's very, very competitive. I've always wanted to do it though. And then, but what really transitioned me over from the fire department to real estate was there was a cap, and you will always, exactly to the cent how much money you're making that day. And there was just something about it. I've always had, not a salesy personality, but I really loved what I did at the fire department, and I really loved real estate. When I was younger in high school, I took like those machine drawing classes, and I would draw up like blueprints and stuff like that. I love that. But what I realized is that the guy next to me at the fire department, if I'm a paramedic and I kill every patient that I touch, the guy next to me who saves every single one gets no benefit for doing that.
Right.
So, and not to say that the only reason you're not doing it is because of bonus money, right? But, there was just no, not to say benefit, but there was really no incentive. There you go. Incentive to be good at your job. There was a lot of people who would kind of just show up every day. And once I realized that is that, yeah. And then I just, I have to go this other route where my income is basically dictated by me,
I think when you have the entrepreneurial spirit, which you obviously do, it's
Yeah.
very hard to be caged like that. And I'm not saying that being a firefighter is being caged, but if you have it, you want to, the money would be dependent on how your efforts are and what you do.
Right.
I think when you have that kind of spirit, it's very difficult to just get that
Yeah.
paycheck and know no matter what I do, it is never going to go above this,
Right.
unless you get some kind of raise. But overall, you could work an 18-hour day or a 10-hour day, and you're pretty much going to be in the same
Yeah.
boat. So talk about real estate. So when you made the leap to full time, was it all champagne and Bentleys and roses? Tell people, because I think there's a lot of people out there that want to make a leap. They feel led to do something different, but it's not as glamorous in the beginning as you might think it is.
No, it's definitely not. It is difficult, and it's hard, especially when you first begin. Because I can tell you, and I see a lot of people, and I'm always happy to. So when people reach out to me about real estate, you think that they just kind of want free handouts and stuff. I love to help people out and give them advice when they reach out to me when they begin real estate, because either one of two things is going to happen. Either you're going to continue to be, you're going to continue down the business or in the business, and we're going to work together one time, or you're not going to be doing it anymore. And you can refer me business, right? Because I was the only one who would, help you out. And I really do enjoy teaching people teaching people these things. But one thing that I would say is, it's definitely not glamorous, but when you first start, and sometimes you're holding these deals together, not just for your client, but rent or your mortgage is due in the next week, and you're like, no, closing needs to happen to, this Thursday. We need that, The other thing too, just some advice. There is going to be, as soon as you get your real estate license, there is going to be 1,000 phone calls a day trying to, get you to buy all of these products, all of these things. I think one of the biggest problems that I see with agents is they want to leap forward right into owning a team, renting office space. This is my home office here. I don't really go into my actual office hardly at all. And you're saving hundreds, $800+ a month on that easily. So I think the biggest thing my biggest piece of advice as far as growing your business is, don't overgrow it. A lot of people, they have like 3 transactions in a month or something, and they're super busy. And like, you know what? I need an assistant. I need a transaction coordinator. I need this, I need that. And then for the next 2 months, they're spending all this money, and it was just busy temporarily. It wasn't a permanent thing, So
Yeah, I think people grow with your growth. What did you say? You don't want to overgrow. I think that's really important, because I think people there's a lot of sparkly, shiny objects out there that can get you, oh, well, if I do this, it's going to increase my sales. The problem I find is that most people haven't focused on the basics yet. Yeah. And until you build up and you grow with your growth, and until you have to manage your growth. We all want to do better, and we want to do more, and we want to free up our time, which a lot of those products are geared toward that. But you really have to make sure that it makes sense in your business plan. You have to make sure that you have the contacts, that the growth is sustainable. Because if you take on that new recurring bill and your growth is not sustainable, and you don't have a great foundation, you're going to have buyer's remorse pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So that's great advice.
Yeah, especially with lead purchasing. That's one of the biggest, you really need to, I think something too that's really important is finding your niche. You have to really, some people, they don't want to do cold calls. Some people love it. I don't understand it, but some people actually do enjoy doing the cold calls. They're like, it's a game of mental chess, to get the appointment. And I'm like, that's great. You really should find your niche, because another thing that people want you to do is training. They're like, hey, look at this training program we have. They can tell you to do all of these things, but if it's something that you don't want to do, you will find an excuse not to do it. I'm thankful most of my business comes from my own sphere, but I have friends that are very close in my personal sphere that are also real estate agents. So you really do want to find your niche, and you want to be the go-to source, but you also don't want to be the person who's always bringing up real estate. You want to be the one who people ask about. Because Lauren, my wife, she always says, you guys talking about real estate? And then like people will be the first to tell you, actually, no, I brought it up. So that's another thing that you want to do is, find your area, that works best for you personally.
Agreed. And I think that's such a great point, because there's a lot of times we sit down, we go to a lot of social events too that are networking, that are awards. Bryan and I were just talking about the Orbeez. And it's amazing to me how even in that arena, there are some people in our professions that can't not talk about their profession.
Yeah.
They have a hard time building any kind of rapport or relationships. And I'm all for focus, but I think you have to be well-rounded. And
Yes.
you have to have the ability to talk about something else other than the transaction or the latest insanity in our world. And so I'm glad you brought that up. I keep meaning to bring that up a lot to people, like, hey, let's talk about your life, which is one of the reasons why we do the show.
Yeah.
Because I want to hear the personal side of what you as an entrepreneur, what you as a top 35 under 35, how you do it. If all you're going to sit here and do is talk about your listings and your just sold and your buyers, and we're going to be bored, not because it's you, but because that's one dimensional. It's not all of Bryan Burns. So let's talk about top 35 under 35. That's a big deal. So tell the audience who might not know what that actually means, who it's affiliated with, because it's a big honor.
So yeah, it's so the Orlando Real Producers and Aaron Luden has done an amazing job building that program. I mean, it is, so they do all kinds of stuff. They do, we went to an event, just the other day, but he does a lot of masterminds, and when I'm going to just brag about him a little bit because he does a really good job. He does the mastermind program, and usually when you see quote unquote mastermind, it's really not like a mastermind. It's a lot of people. Generally, you wouldn't call them the titans of the industry, you know what I mean? And so, but he gets some of the most amazing people there. But that being said, so the 35 under 35 is the top, top producing, and not necessarily just in volume, but overall in business and growing their business that's under 35. So I'm 32. I'll be 33 next or this coming September, but. Yeah, it's a really awesome program, and I was really honored on it. I joked around with Aaron. I said I was running out of years. I'm glad I made it this cut.
Well, it's a huge honor, and I think anybody who scoffs at it probably just needs to work on their business plan. It's not like you get into business and your whole goal is to be top 35 under 35. It just comes with the hard work and the dedication and growing with your growth and all of those things that you talked about. Because it is a big deal. And when we get recognition in our industry, and it seems like there's a lot of opportunities for all of us to be recognized, this one really is more well-rounded. And I have to give kudos to Aaron too all the time. I think that he doesn't get enough credit for bringing the real estate community together as a whole.
Yeah.
And he also provides so much great educational information and tips on growing your business and how to work within the shifting market. I mean, everything that he does is geared toward trying to bring more value to the real estate community. So I agree with you. Kudos to him. All right. So as we wrap up, two things. First, tell everybody, is the sky falling? What's going on in the real estate market? How do you approach the shift? Because there's been a slight shift, I'd say. But tell us how you're handling that and what you think the market looks like.
So the thing that I'm sure I didn't make this up, but my thing, that I tell my clients is slowing down doesn't mean going down. So that is kind of how I describe it. So a lot of times what you'll see is, a lot of these listings that are experiencing price drops and all that, because of course, when you send your MLS stuff out every morning, all they see is just lists of price drops and stuff. I think the market has slowed down. And I think a couple of combinations of things that are happening right now. Because when you look at investing, when you come back and look at it from like from the mile high view, there's really only 4 avenues to go down. There's real estate, there's fixed interest. So like, your T-bills and things like that. There's cash, and there's the stock market. Yes. The real estate market is doing really well because none of those other markets are appealing right now. Right. So the stock market is down 40%. Cash, the cash in your hand is worth 8%, 6 to 8%, depending on the day less. And then T-bills and all that stuff. That's not a very appetizing investment. So that is why I think real estate has really just taken a run. The difference between real estate and the stock market is that real estate has a ton of built-in, first of all, safeguards from like any kind of, especially since 2008, but they offer a lot of tax incentives for not leaving the market. Every time you sell a stock, you pay capital gains on it. If you sell real estate, even if you made $100,000 on it and then you reinvest in more real estate, you're not paying those capital gains. So it builds much more longer term, investors. So because there's such an incentive to stay in. So a little bit longer than a yes, no, but I always like to, help people realize why. Because the first thing they're going to say is, well, you're a realtor. Of course that you don't think it's going to go down. It'll never go down if you have anything to say about it. But it's good to help people understand the fundamentals of why we're not on the precipice of some doomsday thing.
There's a lot of doomsday, and that's why I love to talk. And I have never had anybody doomsday me on the show. I'm sure I'm going to get dropped with that at one point, because you all, in general, the people who come on the show have there's positive. You look for the positive, and the market, and you understand it, and that's also part of learning your craft. You've got to understand your market. You've got to understand the shifts, and then you have to figure out how you're going to go with it. Otherwise, you will be left in the dust. All right, one last question. It's a personal question, not too personal. Don't worry. I saw the sweat bead. There's none of that here. When I say the word hero, who's the first person that comes to mind?
My mom.
Tell me why.
My mom raised us. My mom is divorced. She raised 3 kids. And it's just there's just been so many hurdles along the way, without getting too personal. But there's just been so many hurdles along the way, and she's obviously has never given up, but has just been there whenever I needed. I couldn't have started my business without her, because I knew that I had that. Obviously she's not there to take care of me or anything, you know what I mean? But like, I knew that I had, I wasn't married at the time. So I knew that there was that somewhat of a safety net there that and so that was always it. And just in general, like I said, she's raised 3 amazing kids. She would be there to do anything for us if we needed it. And, she raised me, but then also gave me the confidence to be able to branch out and be able to do this as well. So.
Love that. I love the mom dad ones. It's so good.
Yeah.
All right, Bryan, thank you so much for being on the show. You guys can reach Bryan at bryanburns.com. Obviously, you can find him on social media. I'll have tagged him everywhere. And look, if you're looking to buy or sell, there you go. You got Bryan Burns, top 35, under 35. Thanks so much for being flexible on the show. Thanks for coming on the show. And thanks for what you do for our community, my friend. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. It's great talking with you.
Great talking with you, Bryan.